Because some applications will need to be like geo enabled, and they will make it geo.
Right.
In this case, PostGIS is the...
PostGIS is something that we've actually worked pretty heavily with some of the maintainers on. We work with the Postgres community a good bit, so it's something we do plan to support pretty heavily.
And it's not available on, it's not automatically available. You have like a command flag to create a database in order to PostGIS.
Ah, via command.
Yeah.
So if you're deploying an app, you're always reinstalling all the requirements, right?
No, so we cache them between builds.
Okay, but what happens if I want to install a requirement and the source is down? Does just like the app fail, or is it a rollback? Or?
Ideally, that would never happen.
Yeah, but
so like for Python, for example, we use mirrors for the there's a if you do pip -- use mirrors, it'll use all the official Python mirrors, and we very rarely see problems. But if you're pointing to your own and it goes down, it'll do what the build pack says, which is to fail.
for example, if you're pointing to GitHub and GitHub has issues, I did it, but
I know, I do it all the time.
Yeah, so I mean, we absolutely do it. In that case, it's going to fail. Best practice, you shouldn't do it, because the person on GitHub can just randomly change the code when they want. You don't know what you're installing. But it does work when GitHub's up, which is actually a decent bit of it.
It's very rarely a problem.
It's gotten much better.
But what happens if I do a deploy and do all my web instances go down afterwards? Or
yeah, so essentially what this is happening when you do a git push, it's all of the compilation and all the dependency resolution is happening in a git hook. So if the build pack fails, if it exits non-zero, the push will not complete.
Okay.
So there's actually not a deploy
Yeah.
there. So we wait till everything's built, everything's compiled in that slug before we actually start sending the SIGKIL to your...
Like if your requirements file has a bunch of garbled junk in it, and it just pip crashes, and it will not, your build will not complete.
How about having different languages for the web dyno and the worker dyno? Is that possible?
You would have to use the multi-build pack to do that. Yeah. Usually what you would do in that situation, if they're actual different pieces of code, usually you would just put them in two different applications and have them communicate through a database or HTTP.
Nice. Any more questions?
Imagine I have a Linux HA set up with with my Heroku cluster separated onto two different independent data centers. Can I throw that all away and migrate to Heroku?
I mean, in theory, yes. It's kind of up to you and what you want to do. It depends on the application, but I mean, in most cases, yeah, absolutely.
That's perfect, because then, if you ever want to move off of us, you're already ready.
But how do you handle, you have LXC, you have VMs on Amazon, you have the physical machines that are handled by Amazon. If something goes wrong, how fast is your response time? How do you handle that?
So we are, I'm not sure if we're the largest customer of Amazon, but we're up there. We run a lot of Amazon instances. We have a pretty direct channel to them when there is an issue. So we can get a response pretty quickly. If something happens in one of your applications in one machine, it's no problem. We're just sending it over to another machine. We run thousands of machines, so there's...
Do that automatically?
Yes. So that's some transparency to you. You likely never knew it happened. Because we're probably doing it a few times a minute of rebalancing processes and apps that are running. Beyond that, if there's a broader outage of something like,
EC2 itself is down. That's a different story.
we are across AZs in the data center, so we're at least across the street. But if all of that region goes down, then we would have issues. But if for many data centers, that's going to be a problem if the whole data center goes down.
So what was the downtime last time in March? You had overall?
For this past March, or the big incident a while ago? I would have to look and see. Our databases, I don't believe any of them were down for more than 2 hours, but some of the applications were down for longer, and it really varied. I think
our existing runtimes are fine. Just couldn't provision new ones, right? And then some of the old ones went down, right?
There was a lot to it. And it really depended upon
Points.
customers. Some of our customers were actually back up and in a few hours. A lot were down for a day because the internet was down for 3 or 4 days basically.
The giant Linksys router.
Yeah, and it really depends on what you're running on us and kind of the level of service, because obviously, you know, our bigger customers are going to get some priority over, you know, me running my personal blog. But it necessarily wasn't just that. It kind of depends on which applications went down where and which machines. So it really was a variation of anywhere from a few hours, I think, to a few days for a few people.
If you already have the infrastructure built up, it's really good to run on us maybe, because then, you know, in the extremely rare event that does occur, you're already prepared to move off. But that should never happen again.
You said that apps can only communicate with each other through HTTP. At what level do you decide whether it's HTTP or more concretely, what if I wanted to run some binary wire protocol like protocol buffers?
Yeah. So right now, all incoming traffic has to be HTTP. So it's actually any other traffic.
So you look at the content of the packet.
Yes, it's using an HTTP load balancer specifically. So we have some experimental internal actual TCP routes that you can use. Well, you can't use, but that's something that we're working on. So you'd be able to do 0MQ, and like I have an app that I can receive email to, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to, again, like for many of these really specific use cases, would love to hear more details kind of, I guess, afterwards on what's the use case and that kind of thing. We've heard a lot of these things, and the more we hear about this is a specific use case or this is something crazy that I want to do, you'd be surprised at how many people may ask for that. And the more people that do, the more we have a case for prioritizing it in the product. Cool. And we can hang around for plenty more questions as well.
So, I think we should close now to give people a chance to have questions afterwards. Okay, well, thank you very much. It was very informative. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Thanks for having us.
Okay. Maybe we should give our guest a hand.